Hi there! Sorry I've been away for so long. I've been visiting the family and they have kids in nursery school now, so I was ill for like 4 weeks straight, and I'm also lazy. Thank you to Anonymous for PayPal requesting my response to the following video. Not the Anonymous, just someone who wishes to remain anonymous, although we are legion, I suppose. Here's the video.
South Korea is over. This sounds brutal, but South Korea will soon start melting on all fronts. Demographically, economically, socially, culturally, and militarily. Because for decades, the country has been experiencing a fertility crisis unprecedented in human history.
I did say I'd be noping out of the natalism discussion for the foreseeable future, and I'm not sure why anyone's interested in my opinion, ineligible as some might say it is, but I do need the engagement, not to mention the income, and I ought to be able to demonstrate my willingness to earn it. So, thank you again. I quite enjoy the Kurzgesagt channel. They generally have a balanced way of approaching interesting subjects, so I'm just going to use this as a springboard to approach the topic on the whole. Let's go.
When it comes to demographics, the most commonly used projections are those put together by the UN. They envisage 3 scenarios: low fertility, medium, and high. But in the past, all medium UN projections for South Korea have consistently been too positive.
That's weird. According to the dictionary, UN means a prefix used to intensify a negative. Now, that's a joke, but it's funny because it's also not a joke. The UN is a bureaucracy that oversees other bureaucracies. It achieves absolutely nothing other than parasitizing the world while lying to everyone. But yes, for the sake of argument, there has indeed been a fertility deficit in South Korea, along with many Western and Westernized countries. What do such countries and the UN have in common in terms of the aforementioned parasitic bureaucracy? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Between 2022 and 2023 alone, fertility in South Korea dropped by another 8%. So we're going to use the latest low fertility scenario, which has been the most accurate in the last few years. Keep in mind that we're still talking about projections, and the future is a faraway land.
Yes, a lot of people aren't having children because they can't afford it. And that can change. As long as you're not replacing the native population with a bunch of foreigners, it's not so bad. When the population decreases, but there are just as many resources, people can find decent jobs and get cheaper houses, and that particular wing of the problem might sort itself out, and the population will level out to something sustainable, and possibly go on to reascend sustainably. Alas, the problem runs a lot deeper than just financial difficulties. It's largely down to socio-political problems. I do hope we get to that bridge.
In 2060, South Korea's population pyramid will look like this. The population will have shrunk by 30%. 16 million South Koreans will have disappeared in just 35 years. And it'll be the oldest country in human history. 1 in 2 South Koreans will be over the age of 65.
Does your model account for excess deaths? Excess deaths from what, you ask? I'm afraid I'm not allowed to say on this platform, and I'm guessing you're not either. So let's just say excess deaths from unknown, mysterious, sudden medical coincidences, to which the elderly will succumb the most, as they generally do. People at the highest echelons of power will do quite extraordinarily evil things when they think they're saving the planet. As you say, the future is a faraway land, and nefarious genetic biochemical tomfoolery can take a fairly long time to take effect. But again, I'm happy to overlook it and steelman whatever model you might be using.
Less than 1 in 10 will be under 25, and only 1 in 100 will be small children. Imagine waking up in a country where the streets are strangely quiet with no children playing on them.
I mean, to be fair, bro, to be absolutely brutally honest, guns to my head, bro, I mean, there's a reason heaven is depicted as a peaceful, tranquil, wide-open space, while hell is depicted with a lot of screaming and weeping and gnashing of teeth and whatnot. I get what you're driving at, but you really do seem to have accidentally threatened us with a good time there. Maybe if playgrounds weren't quite so chock full of kids stressing us out, we might not be calling each other such offensive racial slurs all the time. If schools weren't chock full of teenagers stressing each other out, they might be murdering each other quite so much. These are jokes, folks, and they're only ever so slightly true.
A loneliness epidemic of epic proportions is all but guaranteed. On top of that, South Korean culture will probably experience a huge decline.
This is already happening, and not just in South Korea. A certain loneliness epidemic of epic proportions is already taking place, especially in a certain demographic. Might we deign to address it?
As young people disappear, many traditions will die out. Without young people, the soul of South Korean culture will shrink and wither away.
Swing and a miss. Now, it's not young people who are in crisis or being marginalised, at least not from the top down. Any other ideas?
South and North Korea are technically at war, and they could very well still be in 2060. Will South Korea still be able to afford to have its young men do 18 months of mandatory military service?
We're skating, my dude. We are skating right where the thing is.
Today, 5% of men of combat age are enrolled in the military. In 2060, it would have to be 15% just to match today's numbers. Okay, wait, this is all a bit much.
Please, friend, please get there.
Yes, the situation is grim, but at least in the long term, recovery is possible if South Korea enacts rapid and societal changes that make its population want to have kids again.
What if they do want to have children? What if... I'm not sure I can speak for South Korea, but here in the West, it runs a great deal deeper than desire or drive. I guess I'll cut to the chase. If you want more people to raise children, here's a wacky idea. Let men do it! I know I'm something of a fringe lunatic when it comes to this subject, but my first question would be, is the general adult population allowed to raise their own children? No, it turns out half of it is not. I think that might be where your problem is, at least in large part. It's like asking why the teaching profession might be having an understaffing crisis. Well, maybe if you don't ban men from doing it as soon as any woman anywhere gets the ick. Then it's not just teachers. At this point, it's pilots, engineers, medical professionals, you name it. Basically, any job other than physically hazardous dog's body jobs. And it all started with the most important job. Parenting. That thing where the government discriminates against men and it incentivizes and coerces private companies into discriminating against men. That whole state-sponsored bigotry thing. I think looking at that would be a good place to start. But yeah, I'm not particularly holding my breath. The UK recently had an opportunity to examine this problem. See, a great deal of male convicts were realising that the government would treat them more leniently if they identified as women. Not just for the exact same crime, but for the exact same person. Just like men are discriminated against in the family courts, they're discriminated against in the criminal courts and the civil courts, and the education system and employment opportunities and so on. You would think the Supreme Court would observe this situation and think, wait, what? We're treating women and men as first and second class citizens, respectively? How about we just don't do that? What if we actually treated people equally under the law? I know that's not what it says in the Equality Act, but maybe that whole rag is a dystopian strip of toilet paper. Perhaps, if the legal system stopped treating men significantly worse than it treats women, not only would it remove the incentive for men to pretend to be women, but it would, arguably we shouldn't have this caste system in the first place. It's like, it's not just legally chaotic, it's sort of like morally wrong. It's like ethically bankrupt or something, isn't it? Oh dear, I appear to have been thrown out of a top-story window. It's the meme, I'm doing the meme, shut up. Yeah, no, the Supreme Court didn't do that. They didn't even consider equality under the law. They just put their foot down and said, no, second-class citizens cannot become first-class citizens. Men cannot become women. We will not allow our beloved caste system to be sullied in this way. And yet, to repeat, addressing that would be my first port of call. After all, the bare minimum required to raise healthy children is women and men. And if your country actively and legally despises men and won't let them do shit, well, maybe that right there is the biggest fly in the ointment. Just saying. So, yeah, it's not just that people don't want to raise children. A great deal of men want to. They're just not allowed. And so they're not even trying. And even if they are trying, they don't tend to get very far. And even if they do successfully reproduce, they still don't get to raise the child unless they're very lucky. Of the relatively few children who are born, an increasing amount of them are raised by single mothers because that's what the government is incentivizing. So in case anyone still didn't notice, no, paying women to have children does not increase the population. It only decreases the ratio of fathers in the family, and it has a whole bunch of knock-on effects that are not good, to say the least. You might think, well, maybe the government should pay the fathers as well. Maybe the government should be paying couples to stay together. Why don't we just redistribute even more wealth? Yeah, or maybe the solution to socialism is not more socialism, you rattling bunch of boneheads. Maybe robbing Peter to pay Paul was always a bad idea. Especially if in turn you're already going ahead and robbing Paul to pay Shaniqua. Maybe if we just stopped robbing Peter of his children, Peter would have more children. Would you like me to illustrate it in a pop-up book? But if you'd rather step over the gigantic misandric elephant in the room and argue about why a lot of people don't want to raise children, okay, I suppose we can do that too. I'm not all that convinced of this notion that women don't want children. Yeah, I think they do. They just hate men because they're being taught to hate men. And maybe the solution is to stop teaching them to hate men. But in the meantime, yeah, all right, let's humour the hypothesis that people nowadays just don't want children. Here is my 5-point list of things you might be doing wrong that might be contributing to this problem. Number 1, the asylums. If I put you in an asylum, right, surrounded by hundreds of children, right, children who aren't related to you and don't give a shit about you and will relentlessly, sociopathically torment you for no reason, 7 hours a day, 200 days a year for 12 years, do you think you would come out of that ordeal liking children? Or wanting children? Imagine if this happened to you during your childhood. It'd be even more traumatizing, wouldn't it? Some people like to refer to these asylums as schools because apparently once upon a time they were institutions of learning. Like they were run by teachers who had actual authority over the students. As such, the students were united against the authority figures of teachers as their common adversary. But they could still, be healthily competitive with each other, even in the sometimes reluctant pursuit of education. But I, for one, am not old enough to remember such halcyon days, and I'm quite old. All I can recall is asylums, which the lunatics have taken over, because the staff are not teachers. They're just burned out lesbian feminists who occasionally scream into the void to no avail. So the inmates have no common enemy and no healthy competition, and generally no direction in life. They live only to create chaos and make each other's lives a misery. A shallow, hollow misery. And even if they do learn anything, it's a bunch of feminist lies and government propaganda that only makes them dumb and gay and useless. So if anything, it's a reverse asylum. It's where healthy children go to become stunted and unhappy and mentally ill and never wanting to see another child for as long as they live, never mind have any. So maybe that shit is a bad idea. Especially if you want future generations to want children. But we can't possibly. I mean, we need schools, or the kids would. They're not schools, okay? We've established this. Once upon a time, they may have been schools, but now they are indoctrination asylums. We can talk about reforming them back into something resembling schools. That might be a good idea. Maybe we could start by letting men be teachers and letting boys be boys. Whoa! But, this excruciating hellscape where lazy, smooth-brained feminazis teach everyone to be pathetic bitches, maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe don't send your children to those things. If it's even legal in your country to not send your children to those things. And, maybe cut down with the lying to children in general. You don't have to tell them the ugly truth about everything. Just don't go out your way to lie to them. I don't think it helps. Freeing them from the asylums is all well and good, but it's kind of all for nothing if someone else carries on with doing the lying to them. Like, if you give them gifts, for instance, tell them you gave them the gifts. they'll appreciate you telling them the truth. And they'll appreciate you giving them the gifts. They'll go, thank you, Mummy and Daddy, I love you. Rather than, thank you, Magic Man who gives us gibs from nowhere, if and when we're arbitrarily compliant. Only later in life to discover that their parents have been lying to them for no reason. Gee, why is everyone a socialist now? Why is the fabric of the family unit being dissolved in favour of an all-powerful big brother? Gee, I fucking wonder. These will be uncomfortable things to hear, ladies and gentlemen. There are foreign bodies embedded in your system. Extracting such things isn't typically a walk in the park. Speaking of which, number 2, importing nonces. See, people are generally less inclined to bring children into a world that is surrounded by armies of violent nonces. At the same time, most people can't afford to move to a different place, never mind a different country, that isn't importing armies of violent nonces. So maybe if we turn it down, if we turn the tap in the direction that might stifle the flow of all these violent racist nonces from the third world, and maybe even, deport the violent racist nonces back to the third world. That might help a lot. And again, if we deported most of the racist assholes who hate us and are doing nothing but freeloading from us, that would help with the general overpopulation problem. Yes, there is an overpopulation problem, particularly in large parts of the third world, and that problem is being imported to the West. If that wasn't happening, we would have our homes and resources to ourselves, and we would enjoy a better quality of life. That's something we deserve for its own sake. But as a bonus, it would also leave plenty of space and safety for more children, if that's what you're looking for. It's a win stacked on a win on a win. It's a beautiful pyramid of wins. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah. Number 3, bestial simping. Look, I like animals. I think they're pretty cool, and I'm not opposed to anyone living with animals as long as those animals have the freedom to leave. But treating animals like they are your children, actually talking to them and about them as though they are your children, is weird, folks. The rest of the world thinks it's weird when we do that, and they're right, it is weird. When I say the rest of the world, I mean the parts of the world where they don't do this creepy LARPing ritual where they pretend animals are their children. They're not into that shit on account of they're too busy having actual children. Not a coincidence. In a lot of these countries, people are outright cruel to animals, and that's worse than weird. It's cruel. But it is possible to go too far in the other direction, where you're loving animals so much that you neglect your own species. By all means, befriend animals. That would be the happy medium. By all means, develop mutually beneficial relationships with them, so you catch mice and herd sheep and whatnot. But if you're using them as substitutes for human friendships that you would otherwise form, let alone as substitutes for human children that you would otherwise form, well, you might not be part of the problem, but you're definitely not part of the solution. And I am not just talking about the crazy cat ladies. The dog gentlemen, the crazy dog gentlemen, are just as bad. The most dangerous vices are the vices that people think are virtues. Don't shoot the messenger, bro. It's true. But I have pets and I have children. Then I'm not talking about you. But I have pets because I can't have children. Then I'm not talking about you. But that doesn't describe me. Then what the fuck are you so offended about? Again, sorry, not sorry, if you feel uncomfortable at any point. Right, number 4, the propaganda. This one should pretty much go without saying. Psyoping people into not having children so they can save the planet or whatever is very probably having its desired effect on some people. I mean, psyoping people into having children probably isn't helpful either. It just makes them suspicious of something that would be a normal drive anyway. If we could do away with the brainwashing propaganda altogether and let people think for themselves, that might bring people back to their baseline where they generally do want children. Again, I can't speak for South Korea, largely because I don't understand Korean, but I know a man who does. Enter Despot of Antrim. Here's an extract from his video, British Ads Are Dystopian Propaganda.
In this single image ad section, I want to compare the UK's billboard ads to some billboards from a subway station in South Korea. I pass through this station regularly, and while I was doing some research for this video, it struck me how wholesome and normal Korean advertisements are compared to the Luciferian slime that is plastered all over the UK. This first billboard advertises a health service. It shows a granny turning to her nurse and saying, "I can't tell you how good it is to be taken care of with such personal attention." This next ad is from a company called Rebirth, a marriage and relationship counselling service. The ad reads, "With just 1 hour, you can change your relationship." We see the before image with the guy stressed out by his woman. "We feel you, man." And the next image where, after counselling, the relationship is in a much better place. These next few ads are from a company called Duo, a Korean marriage agency which brags that they have been the matchmaker for 50,604 marriages since their founding in 1995. Give them a call and see if they can match you with one of their 36,396 clients. Duo are currently running a marketing campaign with this happy-looking couple. They have 4 advertisements in this subway station. The couple always looks happy and content. Here's one ad showing them in the kitchen. And look, the woman is wearing an apron. Maybe she's making her man a nice lunch. This would be illegal in the UK. In 2019, the BBC reported, quote,
Now, a ban on adverts featuring harmful gender stereotypes or those which are likely to cause serious or widespread offence has come into force. The ban covers examples such as a man with his feet up while a woman cleans, or a woman failing to park a car.
Here's a greenwashing ad designed to promote so-called sustainable practices by various corporations eager to promote a clean public image. But even corporate bilge like this features a nuclear family. This ad is a wholesome display of fan goodwill. It reads, "From Vietnamese fans, happy 21st birthday Zeus." I'm guessing that this guy is a professional gamer, since I don't think he won that trophy for Olympic boxing, but I could be wrong. Advertising spaces being used for happy birthday messages to friends and celebrities is quite common in Seoul. This is an ad for family insurance, and this final one is an ad from South Korea's biggest bookstore chain, Kyobo. The ad presents a patriotic image of the Kyobo CEO surrounded by children of the nation. Kim Yeon-ah stands above them all, proudly showing off her Olympic gold medal. I can't say the artist has done the girl justice, but it's still a lot better than what Ubisoft would have done if Kim Yeon-ah had been one of their character models. The Korean flag flies patriotically above the image. And is that harmful gender stereotypes I see? Boys should be explorers, engineers and athletes? Is that little girl wearing a pink dress? Quick, bring in a British advertising firm so they can fix this.
Maggie, let's do this.
There we go. Much more inclusive. I'm sure you've noticed that those ads are all ethnically homogenous. Korea is not trying to socially engineer its native population out of existence. The country's media establishment do not feel the need to wage psychic warfare upon the Korean people or to humiliate the native male population by insinuating that Korean men are so inadequate and inferior that their women are forced to turn to black men to attain sexual and emotional satisfaction. No one is being pressured to sacrifice themselves for the greater good of Boomer Nan's property portfolio. The opposite is true. Ads encourage families to get their sick and elderly looked after. Instead of telling women to divorce their Korean husband and go get a black man, ads encourage people to fix their relationships and get married. Instead of telling the native people to sterilize themselves to make room for Abdul and Jamal, Korean ads encourage the people of the nation to have kids and get their kids insured and educated. This is wholesome and normal. Now, the meme. Current iPhone.
Ads in Korea.
Get married. Have kids. Better get those kids insured. Happy birthday, Zeus. Take care of your elderly. Hey, read a book. And remember the hard work of the men and women who labour to build and maintain this great nation.
Ads in the UK.
Fucking kill yourselves, you disgusting white scum!
Could not have said it better myself, so I didn't. I just stole a few minutes of his 2-hour video. It's very good, by the way. So you should go watch it. He's one of these Johnny-come-latelys who got popular by being hard-working and thorough, whatever. Again, that's Despot of Antrim. He's awesome. Subscribe to him. Link in the low bar. And yeah, it makes you wonder why Kazakh did a hop, skip and a jump over all the similar low birth rate problems in Western countries where it's considerably more obvious what's going wrong. But let's not forget we are in the West, where securing a future for our own children is racist, and securing a future for foreign children is not. And I suppose that brings me to entry number 5 in what we might be doing wrong. Pretending the right wing is anything remotely as existentially dangerous as the left wing. I've covered this before, folks. Cthulhu has come to destroy us, and Godzilla has come to prevent Cthulhu from destroying us. I do not give a gnat's chuff of a fuck about how worryingly sharp the spiny thagomizer at the end of Godzilla's tail might be. And if you do, you are a fuckwit. Just a fucking fuckwit. You know what? Let's do a Twitter thread puppet video. In case you were wondering what I mean by fuckwit. Dang it, I really need a puppet with an obnoxious American voice. The turtles, not quite what I'm looking for.
You can change my voice again. It's fine.
Right, yeah, that'll do.
It's the weird hill you've chosen to die on. This it isn't woke when we do it angle.
Don't you love it when they start the argument with "you are already dead"? It's a weird corpse you've chosen to fight.
How did "you've chosen to die" become "you're already dead"? My good fellow. Everyone can see you're still struggling. Have you given up the intellectually honest spirit of your past and decided to invest in playing deliberate you've-mentioned bungle?
Lol, how does die mean dead? They're completely different things. So you start by declaring victory and you follow up by automatically AIDS pigging. Classic. Or is it okay when you do it?
Die does not equal dead. You are certainly in the process of it, but I never concluded that the process was complete. Don't invent positions for me. Would you like to discuss how a faction of the right has taken up the tools of the wokemongers and put them to their own use?
Woke means oikophobic. It is the opposite of right-wing extremism. I would ask you to define what you mean by woke, but if you can conjure the concept of death without death, I'm afraid I don't have the electron microscope necessary to see the hairs you're going to split.
So you'd really rather prattle on about your misapprehension of linguistic content and using yet another word to do it? Accepting your definition is prescriptive and so narrow it still applies. The woke right hate the Constitution and their culture and want to upend it.
Mate, you came in declaring I'm dying on a hill. Instead of countenancing how ridiculously arrogant that is, you desperately tried to bifurcate a verb from its noun, you AIDS pig. Let's get on point. In what way is the woke right different from the woke left?
Sorry, I agree to getting on point. They're different in their goals, the outcomes they want. They're using the same methods, but flip the script on who the victims are of the systemic oppression.
What are their goals?
I briefly answered this 20 minutes ago. They envision themselves as holy crusaders, ravishing the evils of that silly individualism the Constitution affords so they can create their utopia of a white nationalist theocracy. Is that oikophobic enough, or would you like more details?
White people favouring white people is not oikophobia. It's the exact opposite. You can go ahead and call it xenophobia, or indeed racist, but calling it the opposite of what it is nothing short of retarded.
This might be a strange concept to you because you're British, but white people aren't indigenous to the Americas. The white supremacist hatred for some of us therefore cannot be xenophobia, but it is racism, and whether they like it or not, we are indeed a part of this culture.
It's xenophobic racism, fear of the stranger due to their race. Just like oikophobic racism is fear of the familiar due to their race. The latter is what we call woke. The former is the exact opposite. E-cow would be appropriate. Go with Ewok, if you like. The woke right is the same as the skeptic community. It's an imaginary collective fantasized by some stuck-up e-celebrity who's turning against his peers because he's better than you. End of story.
What other word or term would you prefer to describe nominal conservatives who adopt critical theory methods?
Woke is a euphemism for oikophobic. You're looking for a euphemism for xenophobic. But one is not required because that word is already broadly understood and already reflexively hurled at anyone who is not oikophobic. You can just keep doing it.
Xenophobia is, as you suggest, abused by woke leftists to the point of absurdity. It also has connotations I don't think strictly apply to the phenomenon being described. I am taking your 2013 semiotics video to heart, establishing useful terms for discussion.
To repeat, woke leftists is a euphemism for oikophobes. What is woke right a euphemism for?
Oikophobes on the right who hate the things about their culture the ones on the left love. Pretty much the only thing the two agree on is they're the victims and their rabid hatred of the Jews.
Oikophobes do not love things about their culture. Have I confused you?
Nothing about that term requires them to hate their culture in its entirety. Or do you deny that the woke left love, for example, gays being allowed to marry, or the wide acceptance of neo-pronouns, or that Taylor Swift released a new song about yet another ex-boyfriend?
You'll notice they only love things that were astroturfed into existence recently. The right loves things that have been organically established for millennia. Woke implies change, waking up from the old and ushering in the new. The right is therefore the opposite of woke.
Organically established for millennia? In a country that's existed only for 2.5 centuries? If woke implies change, then destroying our Constitution to usher in a new age of righteous Christian white nationalism fits that as well. Your insistence that it doesn't is strange.
My brother in Christ! Our culture did not begin with America. I'll let your mind get blown for a second. Are you good? Our culture has indeed been white and Christian since millennia ago. To roll it back to that would be just that. Rolling it back. Regressive, yes. Woke, no.
I'll let you catch up to my other posts so you can realize your culture is not identical to mine, and perhaps we can merge the split discussion over to that thread.
Our cultures have the same common ancestry. Is a few centuries a short period to you, or isn't it?
Our cultures share some common ancestry, but the difference is mine includes elements that predate the existence of white people entirely. No white Christian culture is a couple thousand years old. Bully for you, bud. Mine's tens of thousands of years old. You're out of your depth, Mike. The Americans are not the British Isles or Europe, however much you lot tried to make us, and you can't pretend otherwise.
I didn't realize you were a Native American. Tweeting this from your wigwam.
Excuse me! How dare you misidentify my igloo? Further, woke does not and never has meant oikophobia. It grew from another part of our culture, divorced from yours, that you've never experienced, but one I lived through.
Bro, we most definitely have it here. Have you seen Europe these days? We're getting arrested for criticizing the infinite influx of foreign mercenaries. Don't make me Douglas Murray your ass!
Now you're conflating different issues to ignore the fact that woke doesn't mean what you've prescribed it must, and the fact that woke is a term coined here in a culture quite unlike yours because of reasons your culture never experienced. We aren't the same.
Every word you're using was coined in England. But I'm going to allow you to articulate and elaborate anything you like about those words because I am not a colossal cunt.
Woke the verb. was coined in England. Woke, the adjective currently under discussion, was coined in the United States. Like many words, that adjective no long bears its original context, which you very well know.
All you do is nitpick. Oh, I'm terribly sorry, nitpick is a compound word coined in the US, so you get to tell me you're not nitpicking and I can't say shit. Colossal cunt.
All you do is nitpick. You! No, woke means this thing I just decided because reasons. No, our cultures are same. No, xenophobia only applies to stranger, not foreigners. No, woke only means hating races, you know. You've been picking all the nits you can invent.
Slow. Clap.
And none of any of your semantic fuckery refutes the fact that a faction of the American right wing has adopted the narrative and rhetorical framework used by the woke left wing.
It's specifically Americans. Okay, I refer you to your original post. It isn't woke when we do it. Well, I'm not American, so no. Oh wait, yeah, you get to shit on me, but I don't get to say shit because I'm not American. You're starting to sound kind of... What would the term be?
It's currently being used for Americans, yes. Specifically those attempting to usurp the rest of the right. Conservatives, Christians, nationalists, MAGA, America First, whatever label they choose to adopt. I can't say whether or not it's occurring elsewhere.
You just said it's not occurring over here.
Shut up! I don't get to say shit because I'm not American. This is a straw man. I never said you can't say shit. I said your assertions don't apply because you're glaringly obvious ignorance of the culture over here. Say what you want, even if it's incorrect.
This entire exchange has been you saying things and then denying saying them by micro-dicking about with turns of phrases that you know damn well are turns of phrases. You are, to the letter and the spirit, exactly the kind of AIDS pig I pinned down and called out years ago.
You bifurcated the verb! No, you fucking nonce. I, via metaphor, asserted that you were actively engaged in a particular behavior. Chose to die on a hill doesn't mean you're already dead. You're still defending Mount Stupid, but you'll die there eventually. Perhaps your puppets, slobber-covered monitor, and your empty liquor bottles will mourn you.
And right on cue, you've gone psycho, AIDS pig. Your culture is either 2.5 centuries old or tens of thousands of years old, depending on what suits you at the time. You'll notice I'm only addressing your points, not obnoxiously planting a flag of victory every time I blurt out some bullshit.
The United States and the culture developed around its founding is 250-ish years old. The culture of the Americans, note the plural, is much older and adopted some elements sharing a common ancestry to yours, but only for twice as long. Most indigenous cultures were wiped out.
I would have thought it started with the Pilgrims, who incidentally did not arrive with their memories erased, having swum there naked.
The Pilgrims, failing to erase all the people already here, decided to incorporate them into a new culture. There's a reason so many of the places and things over here don't have English names.
Everything you're saying is English.
False! I used a non-English word in response to a non-English word you used. Wigwam versus igloo. Or are you going to pretend every doesn't mean every?
Silence, non-Englishman. I am English and you are not, so I am the arbiter of truth when it comes to English. Right?
Let me know when you start pronouncing words correctly, governor. Maybe you should get the mainstream meteor in on it. You'd think the British would love some tea.
I wonder what this guy's real name is. I hope it's Martin. Anyway, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I mean by a fuckwit. Someone who does nothing but dance around pointless lexical minutiae because they've already pre-concluded that they're better than you. They can't think for themselves, so they let stuck-up contrarian e-celebrities dictate their vocabularies for them. It's not even sad. It just leaves you sort of cold. Know what I mean? Alright, let's do one last slightly abridged exchange to play us out. What were you calling the woke right before you called it the woke right? This should be an easy question to answer since the term only entered the discourse last year. Be as concise as you can.
Racist people! Next question.
Quote, calling everything you want to control racist until it is fully under your control. End quote. No further questions, Your Honour.
Yeah, that's what the woke commies and the woke Reich has been doing, so it's understandable that you wouldn't recognise my actual truthful use of the term.
That was a quote, sir. I'm presenting it without comment.
Ah, yes, because you have no argument against my point. Back in your lair, troll.
No, sir, I do not. Your point is on point. If you would like an argument, I suggest seeking out the originator of the quote.
I heard your original quote as saying I was doing the same thing. If that's not what you meant, I apologise.
I accept your apology. Alright, that's it, folks. Don't hit like, don't hit subscribe, don't hit the notification bell. None of it does anything. Not on this channel. Please join us on alternative media sites like Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, etc. Thank you to everyone who has generously donated. If you have anything you'd like to request, please do so along with your donation. That helps very much. PayPal is generally the best place for that sort of thing. See, I feel compelled to actually honour such requests as and when they come with such a financial incentive. Moreover, I don't feel like anyone particularly wants to hear what I have to say unless they ask me. Or fuck with me. In either case, please do. In the meantime, do catch our weekly shows over at Badger Livestreams, link in the low bar and in the end card, where I appear every Tuesday and most Thursdays. And on Tuesdays I actually make an effort to do somewhat long-form rants about the news and whatnot. Even when I'm sick, even when I'm lazy, come hell or high water, I get the Tuesday show done. I've sort of migrated Munted News to that channel on the Tuesday show, and that's why it's no longer here. I know it seems like I'm mostly absent, but I'm not. I do 2 shows a week. I just don't do them here because my channel dies faster the more content I upload. You know how it is. It's perfectly normal. Happens everywhere. There's no such thing as an algorithm. Don't worry about it. Right. Cheerio. See you next time. Unless I die. I won't die. I probably won't die. And neither will you. Probably. So, yeah. Chin up. Soldier on. Stop talking, Mike. Okay, bye.